Hi and welcome to Conversations with Robyn. As you know, we've been filming a number of shows on the Great Walk to Beijing, which is part of the fundraising for Olivia Newton-John's Cancer Research and Wellness Centre. And on today's program, we have someone who actually used to be my pin-up when I was like about, 12, 13. Cliff Richards, thank you so much for being on the program.
Not at all.
Or should I say Sir Cliff Richards?
No, actually, sir, you don't need to use it all the time. It's very nice to be introduced like that, I must admit. But all you need to do, if you're standing when you're speaking to me, just curtsy.
Curtsy. Well, actually, it's interesting because when we were on the walk yesterday, I was asking you around that time when you received your title and how that was for you. Can you just share a bit about that?
Yeah, I can, because it's burnt into my memory. I think of all the things that I've been given over in my lifetime, that's probably the best accolade I've ever received. Because getting a knighthood is not something you can work for. You know, when you make a record, you can think, oh, that sounds really good. Let's go for a gold. You may not get the gold, but you can aim at it.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see that any one of us could have ever sat down and said, I'm going to go for a knighthood. It just doesn't work that way. So when the letter came, and it does come in the form of a letter from the Prime Minister's secretary saying, the Prime Minister has decided to put your name forward for a knighthood. He's presented the letter to the Queen. If she says yes, that's okay, are you prepared to receive it? And was I prepared? Oh, letter page burned as I wrote, yes, please. But the thing was, I was sworn to secrecy then, because the letter came, I think, in the summertime. And then I had to wait till it was officially announced by the palace in the papers. And if in fact it had got out at all, then they said it would immediately be withdrawn, the opportunity. Yeah, so it was terrible. I wanted to tell all my friends all about it, but I couldn't. You know.
Yeah.
I shared it with one or two people, but that's all. People I swore to secrecy as well. And but going to, just going to the palace. I've been to the palace a number of times, and it's always awe-inspiring. It just is, because, are we the only country in the world that still has this sort of physical attachment to history? Having a queen that is, you can trace it back to Henry VIII and all those others before him as well. And yet she still lives in the same palaces. Our palaces are not just museums, they're actually homes for some of these people. So it's quite an awe-inspiring thing to go there. And on the day of the knighthood presentation, I was separated, but there were a whole bunch of people went, because the awards are given to, across the board, MBEs, OBEs, CBEs, all sorts of awards, and of course knighthoods and lordships. So when you get to the palace, I was separated with about 4 or 5 other people who were also getting knighted, and we were taken to a corner of a very well-appointed room, beautiful carpets on the floor, and chaise lounges in gilt and stuff. It was really rather nice. And this guy came and said, okay, now I'm going to run you through what you have to do. Now you think this may be easy for you. You're not going to get nervous at all. He said, but please, do everything I suggest. The main thing he says, there is this kneeler. And it was a thing about that high off the ground, and it was a platform of a tapestry type material. But the main thing was it had this armrest. Not an armrest, but an arm hold. So when you knelt, you could put your hand on this. He said, don't be macho, please. Do hold. He said, I have seen people fall off this. And so that struck a chord with me. I thought that's the kind of thing that would happen to me. So you go forward to the Queen when it's your time, and you kneel, you hold, and you put your head down. She brings a sword, taps you on the shoulder, and then she stands up, and he said, do not speak. Do not say anything until she speaks to you. And of course, I always hoped that she'd say, arise, Sir Cliff. But she doesn't do that. Apparently Hollywood created that.
Yeah, okay.
That doesn't happen. So the shoulders were tapped. You then had to stand up and lean forward. She placed the order of the knighthood around you as a medal. Then she may or may not speak to you, and she did. She actually said to me, the Queen said, well, she said, this seems to have been a long time coming. And I was so emotional. My sisters were in the room watching me, and it was a high moment for me. And I babbled. I didn't know what I was talking. I couldn't talk. I said to my sisters afterwards, I said, the Queen must have been saying to herself, why didn't we give it to somebody who could at least speak English? It was just a very, very emotional time. I'm sure she's been through it before.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a real highlight of my career, my life, really. And a couple of years later, when I was at Wimbledon as a knight, and I was sitting with my two sisters, two of them came with me, and I said, can you believe it? Can you ever believe that we would be sitting in the members' enclosure of the Wimbledon Club during Wimbledon, and you're sitting with a knight? I mean, it was just beyond our wildest dreams. It's just the best, wonderful thing.
Well, okay, in you sharing that, when you were a young boy, what was your plan for your life? Did you have one? Was there something you aspired to?
I don't remember having any plans, really. It's just that, you know, the singing urge came for me quite early. And then Elvis happened, and Elvis Presley was an inspiration to the whole of my generation. And even though when I look back, I can see that people like Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Perry Como, Teresa Brewer, these were wonderful singers. They didn't inspire us the way that Elvis and the others that followed him inspired us. And so all I know is that I wrote a letter to somebody in Australia. In England, we were given, well, obviously in Australia too, in our schools, we were encouraged to have a pen pal. Probably because we would then get used to writing information to somebody. And so I was given a name and address. It was a girl. And I wrote, and years later, this woman sent me a photofax copy of the letter I'd written, my first letter I'd written to her. And she said, I've still got it. And it was signed Harry Webb. And it simply said, and I bring this up because I didn't realize I was this young when I wanted to sing. Because it said, I can't remember her name, so let's say, Dear Helen, my name is Harry Roger Webb. I go to this school in Cheshunt. It's the Cheshunt Secondary Modern School. I'm 12 and a half years old, and my ambition is to be a singer.
Amazing.
Now, I don't remember feeling that way when I was 12 and a half.
Wow.
So that's how long that's how far back it goes. And I can remember having a love for listening to music, of course, but then most people at that age, young people do like listening to music anyway. It doesn't necessarily mean they want to be singers. But I remember that my mother and father, because I was born in India, my parents used to have big wax records and one of those wind-up turntable things. And the big party piece that I would do, my mother would say, when she had a group of her friends over, and this was prior to my ever learning to read, she'd say, Harry, go and find me Chewing a Piece of Straw, which is one of the songs. And I would apparently go through these records, all these, I don't know, 30 or 40 records that she had, and I would come back. Somehow I found a way of recognizing the record sleeve or the record label. And so I always say that showed my interest. My interest was there because I was messing about with records and I was listening to people sing. But all I know is that it was Elvis that was the big inspiration. I used to long, not just to be like him, I wanted to wake up and be Elvis. But as you get older, you realize that can't happen. But what he did was open the doors for us. He opened the doors for people of my age. By the time I was 17 and a half, I'd made my first record.
Wow.
And on my 18th birthday, it was #2 in the British charts. So things happened fast for me. And again, I consider myself very fortunate because, you know, our business is very strange. It's hard to understand why people say, I make it, but there may be 20 other people who sing just as well or better who don't. And that's why that show X Factor, they've hit on something that's actually true. When you actually look at what you do, I find it really hard to know why I'm here. I really don't understand it myself. Okay, I make a sound with my voice. I don't know, you know, there's no way of gauging good and bad. I don't know, I have favorites, but the only thing I ever judge in a record is if someone can sing in tune, that's okay by me. I may not like the style of music they sing, but I can say, but this person sings in tune, it's fine. But I don't know how people decide what they like, and that's the X Factor. It's what will always remain a secret and a mystery to all of us. We don't know why we're here.
That kind of leads to so many different questions. We'll take a break and come back and maybe ask a few of them.
Okay.
Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, and we're having a rather interesting conversation with Cliff Richards. Before the break, you were talking about kind of your journey in being a singer and the X Factor.
Yeah.
One of the questions that sort of pops into my mind, how strange is it to change your name?
Well, it wasn't as strange as I thought it might be.
Yeah?
I mean, and the reason, originally I was a singer of a band. And what I did was I sat around with them and we tried to think of a name. And one of the original names I thought of was Planets. We were going to call ourselves the Planets.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I looked up in the dictionary and I seem to remember it said Planets, Cosmic Drifter. And I thought, oh, Drifter would be good. So we called ourselves the Drifters. Of course, we didn't know at that time that there were already a band of guys, black group in the States called the Drifters.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of kicked off in our amateur state as the Drifters, and I was just one of the Drifters. But then when I played this little club in London, where a number of other artists, Terry Dean, Tommy Steele had been discovered there, and we did a whole week in that club. No one actually discovered us, but two things, vital things happened. One, I met a girl called Jan Vane, who said to me, I'd like to start a fan club for you. I said, oh, fine, we don't have any fans, but that'd be great. Let's start a fan club. And the second thing was a guy called Harry Gratrix. He said, I love the band. Would you come and play in my ballroom? I have a ballroom in Ripley in Derbyshire, which is in the northern part of, just north of the Midlands.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, oh, yeah, of course, we'd love to be in your ballroom, top of the bill. And he said, okay, right, I'll have the posters done, Harry Webb and the Drifters. And I said, oh, no, we're just the Drifters. He said, oh, no, if you want to come to my ballroom, I need to have I want a big name. You can always have the Drifter, but I need a name. It's got to be Harry Webb. And I said, well, I don't like Harry Webb. So we went out of this little club that we've been playing in all week to a little pub around the corner, and over a beer or two, chose my name. And basically the last combinations were Russ Clifford. And I thought, oh, no, that doesn't sound good to me. I don't like Russ Clifford. If anybody's called Russ Clifford, it's nothing personal. I just didn't feel like it was a rock singer.
Yep.
And then somebody said, well, okay, what about Cliff Russard? And I thought, Cliff, rock face, rock and roll, perfect. But Russard, again, I wasn't sure about Russard. Somebody suggested Richards with an S on the end.
Right.
And then the guy that wrote my first record, Move It, Ian Samwell, who was there, said, why don't you take the S off Richards? Now you've got two Christian names. That's interesting. Mm. And every time you do an interview, guaranteed people will call you Cliff Richards. You can correct them, and that's the second time your name's mentioned. So in our naivety, we thought that was, and it did work. It worked like that way.
Yeah.
That way. As an unknown, I was often correcting people, saying, no, my name's Cliff Richard. There's only one of me. I'm not plural. And it was all great fun for us. And it was a tribute to Little Richard too. So, and when I got home, I said, I've changed my name. And my family all said, well, what is it? I said, well, it's Cliff Richard. And they said, okay, Cliff.
Really?
They didn't
Was
bat
that
an
accepting?
eyelid. My younger sister, who at that stage was only 10, would often call me Harry. And then go, oh, sorry, as though she'd made some big mistake. So for them, it was not a jump either.
Isn't
Very
that
strange.
interesting?
Yeah.
That is strange.
And now when I talk to my sisters, they always say, we can't imagine you as a Harry anymore. You don't look like a Harry to us anymore. You are Cliff.
Wow.
And I feel like that. I don't answer to the name Harry. It's a bit like the Sir and Mr.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Queen got rid of the Mr. and changed it to Sir. It's on the passport. And it was simply a matter of telling them I was now a Sir, and they put it in the passport and the credit cards. And I just changed my name from Harry to Cliff, and it was as simple as that.
That is amazing. Why didn't you like Harry Webb?
There was a song going around, it was called That's the Trouble with Harry.
Ah, of
That's
course.
the trouble with Harry. And people used to call me Harry Boy.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. And I didn't like the fact, my name being Webb, you know, I used to be called Spider and all that at school, you know,
okay.
Spider Webb.
Yeah.
So it had all those sort of connotations that weren't very good for me. And also remember, if I was going to be a singer, I was going to be competing with Elvis Presley,
Yes.
Little Richard, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis, Harry Webb.
Yeah.
It didn't compete.
Harry Webb!
We love Harry.
Okay, well, speaking of love, I remember reading on the website, the Great Walk to Beijing, was something like, if Olivia asked you to do something, you couldn't say no.
No.
Because obviously you understand her love for what she is doing and the passion she has for her centre. So why can't you say no to Olivia?
I don't think anybody can, really. She's one of those people that you can't help but love greatly. Mm. and have great admiration for. Even before she battled with cancer, we clicked very quickly. And I don't know of anybody that didn't like her. I've got grown men who weep when I tell them I'm with Olivia, because they'd rather be me. And it's always been that way. And for me, when she phoned and said, you know, I've got this walk coming up and would you be part of it? I looked in my diary and I thought, oh, I can't do it. I can't do all of it. Then I found it was stages. That you could say, I can do this stage. And I said, well, I can do the last 2 stages. And she went, oh, good. So I've at least been able to say I've been part of something that it's unusual for me. I've never done anything quite like this. I've never been asked to do physically like a walk, a sponsored walk. And obviously having people like myself and Joan Rivers make an appearance, and people from Australia who are known in Australia coming up, the one thing I suppose we can offer, as Olivia does, is our names to something, and we therefore create an interest for the public, and hopefully the public will see how valuable having this wellness centre in Melbourne is going to be, not just for the people in Melbourne. It's going to be a cancer research centre, but it's going to deal with people who have to battle with cancer and their families too. It's going to be an incredible thing. And of course, as I say, it doesn't matter where it is. It happens to be in Melbourne because that's where Olivia's from, and why shouldn't it be there?
Yeah.
But research that's going to be shared possibly with other research centres around the world is what we're going to need happening so that we can get an end to this cancer disaster, really, when you think about it. It's the biggest killer on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know, when we all got up, you know, we were all talking about why we were there. The first night I joined the walk, all of us who were new at it all got up and said why we were here. And it's funny, there wasn't a single one of us who didn't know somebody, either part of their family or friends. In my case, 4 people that worked in my office. And, you know, I work a long time with my people. The people that work with me have stayed forever. We don't change.
Yeah.
And so to lose my manager, Peter Gormley, who was from Sydney, Australia, who also managed Olivia for a while, his wife, my secretary Diane, my production manager John Seymour, I thought, what's going on here? 4 people that I knew, and people that were friends of mine. So cancer is a big thing that we're all touched by, and you know, the public, of course, have been aware of cancer a long time, and it's probably one of the charities that receives a great deal of support, both financially and by people working for the same end we're working here for. But you know, you can never feel that you've done enough until we've got rid of it. And this wellness centre that Olivia is helping to create in Melbourne is hopefully going to be a prototype. It's going to be a way of dealing with cancer, not just finding a cure. The cure, of course, is ultimately going to be the dream that everyone hopes will come true. But to be able to learn to live with cancer is very difficult. That's what I admire about Olivia now. I love her more than ever, really, when you think about it, because you can't help, even those who didn't really know her personally, felt what she must have suffered when she first was diagnosed. And as a friend, I know that she was not going to give in to it. And it was fantastic to watch. Fantastic to feel that she fought it and fought it and fought it. And there was no guarantee, you know. Other people have fought it and lost that battle. Such is the state of cancer. That's the way it works. But if you don't fight it, you can just succumb to it. If you do fight it, there's a possibility you can get through it, and she did. So I have great respect for her. And of course there's no way I was going to say no. I was caught in a slight quandary because last year when I was in Barbados, I have a very good friend there who's having a big birthday and had it just yesterday.
Oh dear.
And had said to me, will you be at the birthday? And I knew that he would want me to sing and things like that. So I said, of course I'm going to be there. And Olivia rang me 3 or 4 months ago, and I said yes to her, knowing darn well that I was going to have to phone this friend. Anyway, I did. And he was wonderful. Of course, as soon as he heard, I said, Olivia called me. He said, Olivia called you? And typical reaction.
Yeah.
And I explained why she had called and what I said I was going to do. And he said, of course. How ridiculous. Of course you've got to go. You have to go. I don't mind at all. I'll have another birthday. So I was very touched that he just didn't, he could see that this was important.
Yeah, yeah. We'll take another break and we'll come back with the last part of our conversation with Cliff. Thanks for staying with us. Cliff, before the break, you were talking about how, you know, obviously you can't say no to Olivia and her fighting spirit. And of course, you've obviously also met little Magic, the little kitty cat.
Yes.
Tell us about Magic.
Well, I wasn't here when you all discovered him, and apparently he was discovered either on the edge of a pond or in a pond. I think.
In the pond.
In the pond. I think
Yeah.
someone had been trying to get rid of a cat, an unwanted kitten. I've never seen anything quite so small, and apparently it was a day old.
Yep.
And it's amazing. I don't know. There's, you know, Olivia does exude an energy when it comes to animals. You know, there's no boundaries there. She's really upset when she sees animals mistreated, and to see her with this little kitten, I would have thought it had very little chance of survival. You know, a day old and dragged away from its mother, thrown into a pond.
And a freezing, because that was the day we had snow.
Oh, was
so
it the snow
freezing
day?
cold? Oh,
my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Well, that kitten, what a lucky little kitten. I mean, it's not just alive, but Olivia's got it. And it's fantastic, and it's hasn't opened its eyes yet. She's hoping desperately that it'll open its eyes before the last day.
Yeah.
Because there's only a couple of days left now.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure it will, because it's a cute little cat. It's called Magic.
Yes.
I can't remember all the other names. It's called
Magic, Austin Ludwig. Austin Hospital and the Ludwig Institute.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a cute little thing, and I think she's already found a home for it here.
Yeah, she has.
Obviously, I guess if it was older, she'd probably take it back, knowing her. But it's too young to go through any kind of quarantine and stuff like that. But she carries it around, and I've seen her. She puts it right here,
inside her little jacket.
in her little jacket,
Yeah.
and it just stays there all cuddled up and warm. It's an interesting little animal, because when it wakes up, it's strong. I've had it on my hand, and even when I saw it, must have been 3 days old only, it was gripping my hand and pulling itself up. It was strong.
That's
So
amazing.
with its strength and her determination, and she feeds it with that little sort of pump thing that she's got. Yeah, and it's fascinating. It's actually survived.
It's interesting because when we did our filming with her, he was, I think, 3 days old, and she had him with her, and he was going, it's just the cutest thing. You know, on the walk today, I was just so amazed. How much training have you done for the walk?
Well, I did train, I have to admit. When people told me that the section of the walk was going to be a gradient of 40 degrees, I thought, oh my goodness. I walked 5 miles most days in Barbados when I was in there for at least 6 weeks. And I went to the gym 3 times a week. Because someone has said you've got to have your quad muscles. These quads are the strong, need to be the strong ones for walking in that style of walking, up steps and down gradients and things. So I worked on that, and in the end I was pushing much more than my own weight with my legs. So, and it worked, because the 2 days I've been walking, the first day was like an adventure. We were sliding down gravelly areas, and when I went to bed that night, my legs weren't sore. So my training did work, and today was fantastic. Today was really my first taste of walking the wall, because we never quite made it on that first day. We had Joan Rivers and Olivia and I had so many media commitments that we got left behind doing media things, and I'm itching. I was thinking, oh God, let's get rid of the media. I want to get to
You want to get going.
I want to get walking.
Yeah.
And so I walked for about an hour that day and I didn't even see the wall really, because sometimes the wall's not there. Sometimes you're just where the wall was.
Yeah.
And but today was wonderful to actually physically be on those bricks, and they are so uneven, it's unbelievable. But it was just terrific, and the final spot that we got to were some of the best views. They were wonderful. So although we're here for a specific reason, we're enjoying ourselves, and I find that, and that's fascinating to me, that we can actually do something positive and still have a good time ourselves.
And you were right at the front.
I was.
You were.
I was. I like being at the front because there's a fewer people at the front.
Yeah.
And I found it very hard. If you're walking down some of those tracks, we sometimes get bunched up. Like we start like this and slowly we bunch up. And a couple of times I found myself slipping because you can't see, because the person in front of you is trying to navigate down the hillside, and you can't see where your foot's coming down. There were a couple of times when I stepped into holes and things like that, and I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. And so today I thought, I'm going to get out there in the front and just walk to the front. And I enjoyed that. But again, part of the pleasure is I've spent more time talking than when I wasn't at the front, when I was at the back and in the middle. You just stand next to somebody, and maybe you've never met them before, and you talk, and you solve the problem of the world as you walk along. It's quite a massive experience for me. I've really enjoyed it.
It's been stunning, and what's been interesting for those of us that have been here since the beginning is how quickly we start to integrate with people that have come in.
I know. We've had 2 buses to carry us around. There's quite a number of people walking at these 2 stages. And coming home yesterday in the bus, I'd read my book, which funny enough, these buses, although they drive hair-raisingly, I could read. I can't read in a car, but I could read in the bus. It must be smoother than some. I got tired, fell asleep.
Yes, I saw you falling asleep.
Yeah, don't tell me, the jaw drops. Then suddenly we were all waking up again, and we take a nibble of something that we've brought with us to eat, and then somebody says, "Oh, come on, let's do something," And Tom was the one who got up and said, "Oh, I could do a poem for you," and he did a poem, and somebody else did one, and then of course suddenly it was my turn. I thought, well, I wasn't sure I could sing, but I told them a joke. I think Australians know a man called Bob Monkhouse. Some of you may know him. He was a wonderful, wonderful comedian, but a writer as well. And I got to know him in Barbados. We were neighbors in Barbados, and I got to know him, and he died of cancer about 3 years ago, I think. And unfortunately, his wife just died about 3 weeks ago. She was really lost without him, and it was just one of those things you could almost see that the life was over for her because he'd gone. But he was a fantastic man, and the only reason why I could remember this joke was when he told it to me. I said, it was so funny. I said, who makes these up? And he said, I did. So I actually know a joke. I actually know a joke that I met the writer of. I mean, normally you just don't know. People tell jokes all the time, and no one knows where they come from. So I told my joke, and then I thought, oh, what the heck, I should sing. Everyone expects me to sing. I sang Living Doll to everybody.
You did indeed. We all did.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. One of the things that I've been asking for people from the walk that we do the interview with is to, at some stage, have a look into the camera and to share with the viewers why they feel it would be great to donate to Olivia's Cancer Research and Wellness Centre. Could you please just tell the viewers why you think this is a great thing to do?
I can tell you what I think. In the end, though, whatever any of us tell you, you're the only ones that can decide what you can afford or whether you've got something else that's a priority for you. But obviously, cancer, you've only got to say the word, and you know that it's a priority for a lot of people who are still alive on this planet, but who have to face the thought of dying of cancer, or not dying for that matter. And that's why this, the Wellness Centre in Melbourne that Olivia is trying to raise money for, that hopefully within the next year or two they'll start building, is going to be a kind of new approach to things. It's going to be, well, it's called a wellness centre. It's already starting to treat cancer with a positive attack, saying you can't just kill me like this. And so that it will be a place that will cater for people who will be patients, who will be suffering cancer, but I guess also be dealing with their family lives and how they deal with it, how they're going to get through it, how much love will play a part in it. And of course, and vital to all of this, I believe, is the fact that it's also going to be a research centre. And I've had people say to me in England, what a shame you weren't doing this for something that was happening in England. Well, if anybody's watching this in England, it wouldn't really matter where a research centre was, because when the research is done, whatever is discovered will benefit every person on the planet. It's as simple as that. So I would only recommend it because, of course, you know Olivia. You know that she has actually been a survivor herself. And she commits herself completely to things. We've tried to join her and given her our dedication and commitment. And if you find it in your hearts that this is the thing that you should do, then I would recommend it. Of course I would recommend it. And you know what? It doesn't take very much. If 1 million people just put $1 each, it's $1 million immediately. But of course, you can give more if you wish. So I hope you do. God bless you all.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Cliff.
Pleasure.
Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure.
Because
Thank
you've
you.
been a friend with Olivia for how long now?
We met in the late 60s.
Wow.
She won a competition in Australia.
Yeah.
Came over. The prize was to be sent over to England. and it was ready for her and Pat Carroll, who was singing with her at the time, Olivia and Pat, a TV show, and it was the Des O'Connor show. I think Australians will know Des O'Connor too. I saw them on it actually and thought how good they were. Then, of course, what happened was that Olivia was taken over by my manager at the time, and Pat and Olivia became my backing vocal group. They were in my backing vocal group. I had a terrible time with those women. There were times when they were so close to the front, they'd move their microphone slowly down, they were level with me, and I'd come on stage and I'd see all these men looking this way, and I'd go, what's going on? And they were singing away. I mean, they were fantastic, but they were doing their thing. And I tell you, the only thing I could do, I said to my manager, and Olivia knows David very well, he's retired now, David Bryce. I said, David, look, you've got to help me here. Can you put them behind the piano, and when they're there, lift the lid? I survived it, but they wheedled their way down again.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Not at all, it's my pleasure.
It really is a joy, and as I say, there was a time you were my first pin-up there of this amazing singer, and it's just such a privilege to sit across from you.
It's so nice that I was on your wall, because I've met people, and I've often thought their parents were probably grateful for me, because they wouldn't have had to buy wallpaper.
That's actually a point. That's actually a point. Stay with us for the next part of our program. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you.